Welcome to day 3. Even though sunset is already upon us, activity in the Grand Plains doesn't come to a halt. This playful Giga is just one example. More of the bioluminescent nightlife is making an appearance too. This Sushing Tyrannus is a curious one. Similar to the Nyctotyrannus, these glow plumes can sport different bioluminescent patterns and colours per individual. This lone glow plume is looking for a meal. Something a lot smaller than me. He spots a Kalenkin and gives chase. But then one Kalenkin becomes 2. And 2 becomes 3. Now outnumbered, the glow plume must hope to land as many attacks as he can before the Kalenkin's packmates land theirs. He tries to go for the one that he singled out before, but before long he is surrounded and attempting to fight them all off at once. The Kalenkin's speed outmatches his own. The pack now have a feast for themselves. It makes me wonder, was the first Kalenkin a lure? Or was it just coincidental? A combination of both curiosity and boredom lead me once again to Impact Crater. The last time I visited wasn't the most pleasant experience, but nothing bad happened per se. The crater is bustling with activity, and thankfully this time the fog has stayed away. However, there is a reason some of the apex choose to stay out. The current top predators of the territory sport their impressive trophies, the skulls of Serrata spiders. The atmosphere hasn't changed from the last time I was here, tense and uneasy, like walking on thin ice. A friendly parasaur wanders past. Was she giving me a friendly greeting, or telling me to keep my guard up around here? Turns out, it was the latter. Like magpies spotting something shiny and new, the Rexes wanted a new trophy, and had their sights set on me. Here I froze up, not realising at first that the Rex's powerful bite had disabled my stomp attack. I needed to focus. Mistakes like that could cost me, and I don't plan on dying today. Once the effect had worn off, I managed to land one almost perfectly. My health had taken a battering, but the Rexes had too. We circled, wondering who would attempt the next move first. After a few minutes, I followed the more damaged Rex to the water. I decided to use the water to my advantage. This is usually highly frowned upon in fights, but I didn't intend to sit in the water and just avoid the battle entirely. I simply wanted it at my back, so I stayed in the shallows. With the last reserves of my energy, I decided to take a heavy risk. I was lucky. That move could have killed me, but afterwards the Rexes decided to back down. GG Rexes. But I will yet survive. Now I will sit in the pond and let the cool water wash over my wounds. It will take a while for me to heal, so I still need to be on full alert. I wasn't going to get any peace and quiet though, as a Draco Viper and Dinokairos were having a tussle nearby. The fight got quite close to me, and I didn't really appreciate being used as a meat shield, so I tried to move away. One of their attacks eventually clips me, and I give a disgruntled response. Draco Viper retreats to the trees, but even up there, bad luck awaits him. With a sickening crack, the fall kills the Draco Viper instantly. An undeserved way to die, in my opinion. He was fighting well beforehand. I found a spot in the pond where I can sit, safe from most of the land dwellers. These Apatosaurus were performing a show too. You can't help but smile when you see these little creatures. This young Spino isn't much of a threat, but I am still healing, so I get to my feet when they swim near. He's just busy questing and growing at the moment. Whilst a lot of the creatures here seem busy, I decide to grab whatever food is left on the berry bush. Afterwards I retreat back to my spot in the pond. This doesn't mean I need to stay any less alert, however. A Spino logs in and I snap to attention. Although unfortunately for the younger Spino, it looks like the adult isn't against cannibalism. As the fog starts to roll in, I decide to slowly make my move back to the plains. I stop to greet the adorable tacos. Hearing a cry of pain, I notice that one of them had been snatched by a Apatosaurus. I watch in amazement as the other tacos jumped in the water without a second thought to save their friend. It looks like the Capra was playing around, as it leaves the tackle on a rock in the water. The group speed back to shore. I start the climb out of crater, carrying a melon as a snack for later. Well, the snack didn't last long. As I sit to watch the day pass by, I see something that you don't normally see wandering the plains. This Dinosuchus is probably on his way to Impact Crater, or maybe even Wilderness Peak. The weather clears at an alarming, although welcoming rate, and now the morning sun is shining, the skies are light with oranges, pinks and yellows, and alive with the sound of wings. I wander further into the area to do a quest or two, to pass the time. Unbeknownst to me, a pack of killers were also prowling the plains. Smilodon. Alone, they are no trouble for me. But in a pack, as I am soon to discover, they can be a deadly menace. I got a couple of good hits off at the start, then quickly learned that these smaller predators were hard to hit, dodging and weaving my slower attacks. One mistake, one misjudged or ill-timed move is all it takes when hunting larger prey. GG Smilodons, maybe next time. A Mammothus is making his presence known to all with his loud trumpeting calls. He also warns off a curious Apatosaurus hovering nearby. After getting a drink at the river, I head up to fill my hunger too. The Mammothus joins me for the meal. I need to sort out my assigned attacks, as I need a front kick to cover me if my headbutt or head slam attack is baited. If I were to face more smaller creatures like the Smilodon, it will help a great deal. However, just as I lay down to make these changes, I hear the pitter-patter of light feet running my way. As it turns out, the next time I mentioned earlier is now. The pack is not done with me. Revenge for their fallen packmate, or simply need of more food? Maybe both. Either way, fighting them again without reassessing my assigned attacks will not be fun. They're so agile, baiting out my attacks and using my slow recovery to their advantage, getting their own hits in with the high speed. The battle moves to a cliff edge, which I can use to my advantage. Not gonna lie, that griffin did distract me for a second. I need to stay focused. Frustration worms its way in like an unwelcome guest to the fight. Nearly every attempt I make to catch them out, they counter it with their speed. Sometimes I get a lucky hit in. Most of the times they are too quick for me. This attack was a mistake on my end, but it led the way to a free hit, which I will gladly take. If I had assigned that kick attack, this battle will be over already. Again, I have to fight back the frustration and try to keep my concentration. A final tail hit ends the fight, much to my relief. It was long, and it was frustrating, but that's down to me, not my opponents. GG Smilodon pack, you got my health down really far, and you coordinated well and baited my attacks with ease. As for me, I need to rethink the attacks that I've assigned and strategize more in case I face another pack like this. After barely having time to get a drink from the river, possibly the worst case scenario unfolds. A pair of Gigas are headed my way, and they are boisterously announcing that they have me cornered. Whether they are aware about my low health is unknown, as they were nowhere in sight when I was fighting the pack. Even at full health, Gigas can easily bleed out an adult Apato, and I am at half. I may not make it out of this one alive. That one stomp attack may have saved this battle for me, but I can't let this small victory go to my head. One Giga was sitting out for now, but as his teammate continues the assault, this hinders his ability to heal. Now I froze up here because for some reason the head attack cooldowns are linked to the back kicks, no idea why, but nonetheless I managed to land a headbutt afterwards, once again bringing the Giga to critical health. Looking at my health and the amount of bleed that the Gigas have inflicted, I think to myself, they are winning this. But then I remember one of my favourite quotes. There is no such thing as winning or losing. There is won and there is lost. There is victory and defeat. There are absolutes. Everything in between is still left to fight for. Until the end, there is only the struggle. Because tides do what tides do. They turn. GG's Gigas, but I refuse to die today. Heavily wounded and bleeding, I hurry towards the forest, where the thick foliage and the roar of the waterfall should provide cover for a little while. As this was a common place for others to walk through, I began to move further from the plains to find a quieter spot to rest and heal. risking crossing the narrow but deep rivers. I had a fleeting thought of hiding on the small island to heal, but the image of Deinosuchus and mosasaurs quickly pushed that thought out of my mind. And I continued into dark woods. After a couple of minutes of walking, I found a spot where I could eat and then lay down to rest. Going back to the plains so soon probably isn't the best idea. I also need to sort out my attacks so that I can have a better chance against foes like the Smilodon pack. This was my toughest day yet, and as I reflect on what happened, I realise that a lot of the time I got lucky, and I need to get better. But it won't keep me down. Tomorrow, the sun will rise again, and so will I.